Hello, everyone, and welcome to Finability's virtual workshop. Today, we're talking about savings and retirement. This is part of a five-part workshop series we designed in partnership with Financial Beginnings, focused on reclaiming your finances and thriving. You can access all five workshops on our website at finabilityus.org. I'm Jolene. I am the Director of Programs at Finability.
And I'm Stan Earnshaw. I'm a long-term volunteer with Financial Beginnings and now on their board.
Finability is a 501c3 nonprofit with the mission to create financial pathways to safety and joy because we believe every survivor of domestic abuse deserves the opportunity to thrive. We provide the financial tools, mentorship, and support to make that possible. We are an organization by survivors for survivors, and we are founded in response to the reality that 99% of survivors experience financial abuse. Because of that, we know the information we're sharing today may land differently for each of you. Some folks may feel affirmed or empowered, while others may feel overwhelmed, activated, or reminded of painful experiences. All those reactions are valid. This is just a reminder to please take care of yourself and do whatever you need. This topic in particular can feel hard for some for various reasons. For some of you, maybe savings and retirement feel really out of reach. For others, maybe you've lost what you have worked so hard for. No matter where you're at, we like to start with some mindset shifts or mantras for reclaiming control and confidence around these topics. Some examples could include understanding that you have access to multiple resources, so things like support, knowledge, resilience, community, and your own inner strength are a resource. Understanding that you are making progress. Every choice, no matter how small, is a step towards stability and freedom. And you got this. You've navigated harder things. Financial skills can be learned and strengthened. And knowing that you have agency over your financial future. Your decisions shape your path, so you get to decide what comes next. It can also be helpful to expand your definition of wealth by understanding your value and strengths as assets. One way to do that is to track non-monetary assets or wealth, such as your skills, the networks you have, the opportunities that you've either created or found, and your relationships. And for some, assigning meaning to money and budgets can be really helpful. So some examples could include thinking about rent as security and stability, groceries as nourishment and strength, and self-care as healing and renewal, just as some examples.
Now, as Jolene mentioned, we are talking about savings today. And while this may seem basic, we just wanted to frame this from a standpoint of why it's relevant. Setting money aside will help you manage unexpected expenses, support your dreams, and promote financial independence. And this is a habit that once you do it, once you develop this habit, it will become easier and easier. What it would allow you to do is achieve certain goals that you've established. And they may be long-term goals, big, bold goals, setting aside money in a college fund, planning for that dream vacation, or taking care of immediate business like coming up with the money for a reliable used vehicle. Regardless of that, start with your vision of what you need for the future, of what you're looking for, and then break it down into three different categories of goals. The first is your short-term goals. These are items, in particular, we're talking about financial goals. These are things that you want to save for in the next 1 to 12 months. So short-term, something in this next year. Intermediate goals, 1 to 3 years. And then long-term goals, greater than 3 years. And as we go into a little more detail on our goals and tools module, but a goal could be in either a long-term or an intermediate goal category. So if you're looking to buy a home, it may be something you want to try to accomplish in the next 1 to 3 years, or it may be that it's going to be more than 3 years. Regardless, make sure your goals build towards each other. So if you're saving to buy a home, a short-term goal ought to be, I'm going to set aside a certain amount of money this year for my down payment, knowing that I'm going to need a down payment to buy a home. Now, as you establish goals, we've got two suggestions to help making achieving those goals easier. The first is write those goals down. The simple act of writing it down reinforces and clarifies it in your mind. Second is find someone you trust and share those goals with that person. Hopefully, they will give you perspective, they will ask you questions, and they will help reinforce the validity of your goals and or clarify them, help you clarify those goals so that it's easier to attain. So put together your list of goals, take an action right after this, watching this video, and write down one goal in each category, short-term, intermediate, and long-term. Now, one of your goals hopefully is to start your savings plan and create your savings plan. And really, when you look at a savings plan, there are three buckets, three categories of savings that you want to create. The first is your emergency fund. This is the fund set aside for emergencies, like a car accident and you need to come up with a deductible, a flat tire and you have to replace one or more tires, a health expense and you need a copay that you have to make. These are emergency type items that come up, and you want to have money set aside so that you're not having to put that expense on a credit card. So in an emergency fund, start with $500, grow that to $1,000. Then worry about your debt. Long term, your emergency fund should be 2 to 3 months worth of expenses, because the biggest emergency you could run into is potentially losing a job or losing a source of income, and you want to make sure you can still cover the expenses. Second, start planning for retirement. You're going to retire. In fact, we're going to talk about retirement in a bit. And I define retirement as that period of time between when you stop working and you die. And that could be days, it could be hopefully years. So you want to set aside money for retirement. And the easiest way to start that is by putting money aside in a 401k. And we'll talk about that in a minute as well. Then start saving for your short and long-term goals. You're setting money aside into your different accounts. And we recommend you actually create different accounts. Your retirement savings, by definition, will be in a different account. But you're going to have your checking account that you'll normally have a savings account that maybe is for your short and long-term goals. And maybe your emergency fund is in a different savings account, maybe a high yield savings account. So just consider 3 different buckets, set that as one of your goals. Now let's talk a little bit about retirement then. I just defined retirement. You're going to hit retirement at some point. And when you plan for retirement, there are a couple of different ways that you can set aside money. One is in an employer-sponsored plan. That could be a pension. There are some employers, particularly government agencies, but other employers that still offer a pension. A pension is a payout based upon how long you've worked there, what your earnings were, your vesting, and it pays you money over your retirement years. It could pay a survivor too, depending on how you set it up. But that's something, if your company offers a pension, inquire how do you participate in that. And what more and more companies have moved to, they've moved away from pensions to 401ks. And this is a tool that will allow you to set aside money on a tax-deferred basis and that you'll use in retirement. So this is money you're setting aside. You're not going to access until you're 59 years old and a half, 59 and a half years old, or you're going to pay a penalty and taxes. So the money you put into your 401k, it's designed for your retirement. And we recommend people start with 2 to 3% of their income, because your take-home pay will be the same. You're lowering your taxes by putting money into a 401k. And so that's how your take-home pay is the same, and yet you're saving. And what most employers do is they provide a match on your 401k. So a common match is 50 cents on the dollar. So for every dollar you put into your 401k, your employer is giving you 50 cents. Well, that's an automatic 50% rate of return, which is really good. So if you could take advantage of that, I would strongly recommend that you do that. So there are employer-sponsored plans. Then there are also individual plans. These are plans you can do yourself. And there are two types. They're called individual retirement accounts and Roth IRA. Now, a traditional IRA is a savings plan, much like a 401k. It's just one you're putting money into. You get to deduct that money from your taxes when you file your return today. Um, and then you will pay taxes on it when you take it out when you retire. And like again, 59 and a half years old is when you can start taking money out of that without paying a penalty. And if you don't take any money out at age 73, you have to start taking money out of your IRA and paying taxes on that. The other is a Roth IRA. Now, a Roth IRA, contributions are made with after-tax dollars. So you get no tax benefit today, but money in a Roth IRA grows tax-free. And when you take that money out in retirement, you don't pay any taxes on it. And you can have both. You can have both an IRA and a Roth IRA. Just like you have multiple buckets of savings, you can have a couple of different categories or accounts of IRAs. And one short note, if you work for an employer that had a 401k and you were vested in it, if you leave that employer, you can roll that over into your own IRA. And that's usually a good idea. If you do, make sure you roll it over and don't take a distribution. Because if you take the money out of the account, then that looks like you've a distribution, you're going to pay tax and a penalty if you're under that age. So roll it into an IRA. Every employer you work for, if you leave and have money in a 401k, roll it into the same IRA that you're going to establish with a brokerage firm. Now, when you look at retirement, the government still plays a role in our retirement. We've all heard about Social Security. It's changing. It's going to continue to change. One of the changes that happens more times than not is they extend the full retirement age. This is the age at which you get your full retirement benefit. So for example, it used to be 65. When I retired, it was 60. For me, the year I was born, it was 66 at 3 months. My little brother, who's 4 years younger than me, his full retirement age is 67. So they may continue to move that up because people are living much longer. And then they may change some of how much you're going to get back, and they may change the income at which they are taking Social Security out of your paycheck. So you're paying into Social Security in every paycheck, most jobs. So the government's got one role in your retirement through Social Security. The other role is something called Medicare. And this is health care once you turn age 65, where you have a health care program. And there are different ways to take Medicare. And there are a whole series to go look at as you get close to that age of classes that you want to take a look at. But it's a good program, and Medicare is doing fine. Now, what we recommend is go to this website, ssa.gov, and create an account. This is going to allow you to track the earnings that you've made that have been reported to the Social Security Administration and allow you to do some forecasting. You'll be able to do some projecting that says, if I continue to earn at this rate and presumably then pay into Social Security at the same rate you are, and I want to retire at this age, then it'll tell you what your benefit would look like. That'll help from retirement planning, and we'll show you that in just a moment. So go to ssa.gov and create an account. You will have to put in your Social Security number. It is a secure website. Make sure you're using a secure computer to do that on. Do not do this on a public computer. Find a secure computing device that you can create your account on ssa.gov. It's also recommended that you go check periodically to make sure the earnings reported are actually your earnings, that some haven't been missed, or that someone hasn't gotten a hold of your Social Security number and are reporting earnings that aren't yours that you could end up owing taxes on. Now, Social Security is probably not going to cover all of your retirement. And you want to put together a plan for what's it going to cost in retirement. It's an estimate, it's a plan, but go to a web browser, search on retirement calculator or sample retirement calculator. This is one we found, and then it will come up and ask for input. So, for example, it'll ask for your current age, your planned retirement age, your life expectancy. It's a guess. They've actually got a little question button there. You may be able to get some estimates on based on your current age and your gender. There are forecasts on how long you're going to live. Like I said, it's a guess. And what's your current pre-tax income? And then can you plan for increases? So in this example, I said currently I'm making $50,000 a year. I'm getting about a 4% raise each year, and I'm going to need 75% of that after retirement to live on. What average investment return am I going to get? Well, that depends on your comfort level in the market. The stock market in general over a long period of time is average 7%. So I said, let's do 6. And then what's the inflation rate? Again, you're guessing at that. It varies. But 3% seems over looking historically over many years in the past seems to be a decent average. Other income after retirement. So this is where you may put in your Social Security income. How much do you have set aside in savings and what percentage of your paycheck are your savings? So just different inputs that'll give you a forecast that says, okay, after retirement, I'm going to need $11,688 a month, which today is $3,377. Okay. If I saved 1.94 million. So my plan would have me saving almost $2 million, and I'll need $1.76 million. And that's looking at inflation and expenses going up, your income going up, things of that nature. Now you may look at this, and if my need bar is greater than my what I'll have bar, then I may need to go back and adjust some of the factors in that plan. The point is find a plan you're comfortable with and play around with it. It's online, it's a tool. You can make different assumptions and then update it every year. Take a look at it next year and say, should I change any of the assumptions I've made on when I'm going to retire or how much I'm going to need or what my rate of return might be? Now, let's talk a little bit about rate of return. So we've built in a module here on investing, okay? Because we can save, but we can get greater return on our money if we get our emergency fund and we get our short and long-term goal fund, and then our retirement funds are going to be invested, hopefully, because we're looking longer term in other instruments. And what this investing allows you to do is compound your interest. Okay? Compound interest is interest you earn on both the money you've saved and the interest you've already earned. So it's like earning money on money. To give you an example, here are 2 scenarios. And scenario number 1 is this person has invested $200 per month for 10 years between ages 20 and 30, and then stopped putting money into this account. Person 2 waited those 10 years and put the same $200 a month into their account for 30 years and assume the same rate of return for both accounts. Person 1 has significantly more money. And as you can see, the lighter box is how much they've saved, and the darker box is what they've earned. And so because person 1 had 10 more years of compounding, they actually compounded this over 40 years. It grew substantially more, particularly in that last 10 years. So you want to start setting money aside early, set it often. Another advantage of a 401k is it's automatic. Every paycheck, you're setting money aside for that retirement savings. Now, as you look to invest, there are a couple of different things that you can invest in. They're oftentimes called investment instruments. One is stocks. This is ownership of a company. A bond. A bond is a company borrowing from you or a government borrowing from you. So if you buy a government bond, you're lending the company that money, or a corporate bond, you're lending the corporation that money. And then a mutual fund is a combination of both stocks and bonds. And if you're not familiar with mutual funds, or this stock, bond, and mutual fund concept is new, then I'd go search YouTube on explanation of mutual funds, and you'll see some nice videos that'll explain how a mutual fund is a collection of stocks and a collection of bonds managed by a professional money manager. And that's a great way to invest, particularly if you're new in investing. Now, when you're deciding what to invest in, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, you want to take into account risk versus return. Risk is the potential to lose some or all of your money. Okay? Some instruments have low risk, some have high. Return is the potential profit or gain that you're going to get. And they generally balance each other out in that the lower the risk, the lower the potential rate of return. So, for example, cash has no risk, right? If you put money in a bank account, credit union account, in an insured bank or credit union, that money's not at risk. But it may not grow by much. If you go look at your bank savings account today, you might be making 1% or less on that money. Stocks, I mentioned on average, over time have returned 7%, but there are years where you're in double-digit returns in the stock market. But they also have quite a bit of risk. I had a friend that took a company public, and I got involved in that, and I lost all of it. Fortunately, I didn't put much money into it. And then everything in between has a little bit higher risk, a little bit higher rate of return. So what you should do is also go to a website and search on risk tolerance quiz. What's your ability to tolerate risk? Because your investments are keeping you up at night. You're too risky of an investment. So, but you can go through, they'll ask you questions, and they'll come back with a profile of your risk tolerance that will help you decide where you want to invest your money. The other thing you can do is diversify. Diversify says don't put all your eggs in one basket. So have some money set aside in cash. We talked about your emergency fund, your short and long-term savings accounts. That's cash, okay? That's your liquidity. That's money that you have access to immediately. Stocks, bonds, real estate, those are other categories, and you should have some in each. The percentage will vary based upon your individual risk tolerance, your individual situation, and what you're saving towards, but know that you should have a diversification of where you have your money. I wouldn't recommend you put it all in stocks. I wouldn't recommend you put it all in cash either. And those are the two ends of the spectrum. So find a place that allows you to meet the risk that you're most comfortable with. Now, how do I start investing? Well, one of the ways to start investing is you can do it yourself, or you can hire a professional. Doing it yourself will lower the cost. A professional is going to charge you for managing your money. Doing it yourself, you're not paying that fee. But it's time consuming, and there's the risk of making mistakes. So if you're going to do it yourself, make sure you're knowledgeable on what you're doing. If you're going to hire a professional, the advantage is they have the expertise in doing this. This is what they do for a living. But there is going to be a cost associated with that. So you need to find the balance that works for you. If you're going to hire a professional, interview a couple, 2 or 3, and see who you feel most comfortable with, see who has the right kinds of fees that meet your needs. Overall, what we recommend, we've talked about, start your emergency fund, start with $500, build it to $1,000, enroll in your company's 401k, put 2 to 3% of your income aside, your take-home pay will be the same. And if there's a match, you'll take advantage of that match. And then go back and reduce your debt. And you may need to go to our debt module to get more detail on a debt payment plan using either the snowball or avalanche method. But reduce your debt other than your home, your mortgage. Get those credit cards paid off, get those student loans paid off, get those personal loans paid off. because they're just draining your budget. So the more you can get that debt paid off, once you get it paid off, go back to your emergency fund. You have $1,000 in that, grow it to 2 to 3 months worth of expenses in case you should happen to lose your ability to earn income. And then go back and then you can save more for your short and long-term goals.
Sometimes this information and these topics can feel overwhelming, and so we want to encourage you to really celebrate the small milestones. And this will look different for everyone, but some ways to acknowledge what you've already done can include recognizing the courage it takes to make any financial decision, especially after experiences where control has been taken away. Honoring the steps you can't see, so things like setting boundaries, asking questions, learning something new, or saying no to something that drains you. And celebrating consistency over perfection. Showing up for yourself matters more than getting everything right. And acknowledging the emotional wins, things like feeling confident or calm or more clear about what you want and need. And give yourself credit for rebuilding at your own pace. Healing and financial independence both happen step by step. Thank you so much for joining us. If you want to learn more about what we do at Finability and our other programs, please check out our website at finability.org. We also have a contact us page. Please feel free to reach out anytime with questions. If you have questions about our programming or anything in these workshops, you can also see the other workshops on our website as well. And thank you so much, Stan, for being here, for guiding us through this. And thank you to Financial Beginnings for being such a wonderful partner in these workshops. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.